Leona here. Another another day of not in that particular town of San Francisco anymore. So that's a good thing. One second. You too ridiculous. Life with service animals. Who just performed magnificently at their one task of PTSD alert. Once again, we're doing the whole trick of if you leave your room, you're not allowed to go back into it because it's rude to the city to not give all your money to it right off the bat. It's like, look, I moved to a new city. I'll give you your money when I feel like it, not just because you're hurting for money right now and you need people to move to this town because clearly nothing goes on here. You got businesses and nobody fucking goes to them. So I'm here. I'm here and I'm gonna entertain the idea of going to some of these businesses or at least having these businesses come to me. So yes, commerce. Commerce, commerce, commerce. It's kind of important. It's one of the major reasons why America's in such dire straits. Some could say, well, it's crime, bad schools. I say it's because we're not doing business properly. We're not spending enough, or we're spending, but we're just doing it rather selfishly. But I'm back on camera. I thought I would hop back on because, like I said, once again, you see, that's what happens when you live on the West Coast. They can't allow things to happen by chance, so they always try and organize or I don't know, orchestrate. I guess is the better way to put it. How does it feel when you're being manipulated? Does it feel like warm sunshine? Because yeah, it is sunny up in this beach. That's for sure. I wanted to be optimistic. I said in the last one, they even made a clip of it. Come on, just be optimistic. Roll with it. And me, I can't do that. I just can't. Amanda Beverley, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the revolution, Amanda Beverley. And I say revolution because I'm a socialist. I believe that the ills of mankind could be solved by just state owned businesses. Call it what it is. We need to elevate who we are and how we think. The idea of private ownership, it made sense a long, long time ago, but it's just not economically feasible or it's just not what people really want. What people really want is standardization. Hold on, I'll be right back. I do love my dog. He does love the other dog. Unbelievable. Either way, thank you, Echo. Thank you. Socialism. It's not something to be scared of, it's something to just embrace. We need standards. We need one company that distributes clean drinking water. We need companies that distribute food. We need companies that just distribute things like internet. The internet companies are consolidating, they're gobbling each other up. And the government is of the mindset that, well, there's so many other things that they could compete against. We don't mind if you become a monopoly. The only problem with the monopoly is then they set the price. The price is too high. I am for free solar energy, but I think I'm also for free internet, free high speed internet. Once you've had high speed internet, you just realize that it connects you. Rigo Gomez, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the revolution. My name is Ian Iliona. I will be your guide on this journey. When are we going to upgrade? When are we going to move to the next level? Been doing a lot of soul searching. You want that? Okay, see. Here we go. A lot of soul searching because there are two camps. There's the camp of, if you stay, you're gonna have to fight now. That's where America is pushing itself. America is pushing itself toward everything is gonna be a fight now. If everything is a fight, it's gonna be really, really hard to live in America and justify going through everything that we go through. The only other choice is to leave. But if you leave, just keep in mind that this country is still going to have problems. And what if you could be part of that solution? Also, every other country has issues too. So when people emigrate, you think you're moving toward an upwardly mobile society, or you think you're advancing your generation that come after. Really? You're just trading dysfunction for dysfunction. There are things that function here, clearly. They are. And the West Coast has a system, some sort of system. But I just can't really agree with it. There are people who come to the West Coast and they live quiet lives. I don't know how. I don't know how when almost everything that's happened on the West Coast has been orchestrated. It's just fake bullshit. And I'd love to bring these people into fucking court and just say, who the fuck are you that you bother me all the time? But that's what happens when you have PTSD. You relive the most horrible moment of your life. But then you also say that that's the reality of the world. When I was sexually abused by the United States government, I was shown what America really is, what the military really are. Hollywood will dress them up as heroes and misunderstood, socially awkward people. Some are. Some are actual heroes, and some are just scum. Master Sergeant Miranda, who sexually abused me, was scum. The United States government that allowed that to happen and forced it to happen are scum. I have every right to criticize them. I have every right to bring it up every single chance I can. They paid me for being tortured, opened up a lot of doors, changed my life for the better, put me on a different course. That course is a lonely one, and I don't really mind being alone. It's just, I'm never going to be able to be around people. There's a thing going around of I just receive. How do I even say this? Apple, you sly bitch. You fucking sly bitch. You just slide into my fucking DMs with every chance you can get. But anyway, they're like, meet up. How about you join the Reconnect movement? And all I can say is, connect to what? Connect to each other? Not really. I said in the last one that we need to make partnerships, but that's not a connection. That's a business transaction. We have to be cold and clinical. I like socialism because socialism is cold and clinical. It's not nebulous, it's not wishy washy. It is exactly what you see. Some socialist environments can obviously be corrupt, anything can be corrupted, but when you have the entire community's eyeballs on something, that's a little bit more honest. Hmm. Where are we going? Where are we going with America, society, the future, people in general? I know it's a leap of faith and a lot to ask for people to be interested in a space program, specifically Mars Now, my space agency. But we need something more. We need to understand what is going on in the world right now. I mean, we talk about the Hunger Games, we talk about zombies, we talk about plagues. We don't talk about We need to start saving people. We need to relocate people. We need to build homes for people. We need to build relief centers for people. We need to retrain people for what life is, or we need to actually have required education of all the things that we're missing, the competencies. When you have crime in your area, it's because America broke down. America broke down. Maybe it broke down for one person, but America broke down in that moment. Some people say that's okay. Or maybe you need a little excitement to justify things. I think it's beneath us. It's beneath us to have any crime. It's beneath us to waste resources on what is a basically babysitting job for most police officers. Most police officers just babysit the fucking town. It's like you didn't do this properly, or you didn't park here properly, or you know, whatever. They do their job. I support them. But why do they have to do that job at all? It's because we stop doing the job. When you give up power, when you give up jobs, being a teacher is a job. It's a job you should do. When America started shooting up schools, parents should have had this horrible reaction that forced them to say, you know what, I don't need to send my kids to school. Um, I just wouldn't put their life at risk for a mediocre education that only leads to a mediocre life. Being a pop star, being a rock star is not exactly a sustainable life. Clearly not. But do you want your kids to be unhappy? Do you want your kids to be alive? For the most part, I don't know. There are worse things. The reason why doctors are paid so much is because of their expertise, but it's also because of the lack of ours. If we had more understanding of the functions of the human body, we wouldn't need to pay an expert in it. If you understood that you needed hydration and that all these sugary beverages are hypertonic solutions that push the water out of you to put more salts and solutes into you, then you would think differently. You would behave differently. If you knew that your intestines needed a good scrapety scrape by fiber, you would eat more vegetables. But vegetables don't taste as good, mostly because people aren't preparing it properly. Chef, another job people give up, and they give it to strangers who don't know you, don't know your body, don't know what you need. As much as I travel, I need to found a new city. I need to find a new city so I can allow people to be people again. Because they're going around trying to be anything but self reliant. When you learn how to cook your own meals, when you learn how to take care of yourself, you don't need an expensive doctor. You don't need anything. I mean, as much as people want to talk about immigration in America and ICE, I want to talk about migration toward a future. Because right now, people are just locked into cycles. They do the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting different results, but there's no growth, there's no escape trajectory. Trauma is an escape trajectory. It'll push you out of the orbit of something. Maybe a good thing, maybe away from a bad thing. Having these talks are never pretty, never eloquent. It's just necessary. It's necessary to go on record as an American citizen and say how you feel without worrying about whether the government approves or other people. Speak your mind. Exercise your freedom of speech. Exercise your freedom of press. Ask some important questions of the world, society, and those who are around you. Subhort world. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the revolution. Where are you from? I'm from America. I live here. I don't sound it, obviously, but I do live here. I am a freedom fighter. I fight for freedom, but by using normal communication, exercising my freedom of speech. I'm going from town to town. I guess I am kind of a journalist, a podcaster. Wow, lovely. I am from India. Well, hello. Welcome. Welcome to the channel. We need more Indian fans of my content. Love from India. Mm. Love from America back to you. I hope things are better there than they are here. America's having a tough time of it, mostly because people don't talk enough. They don't open up their mouths. They don't ask, who are my neighbors? I like to be by myself, so I'm not exactly. I am not exactly the friendliest of people. Would you be after PTSD forced upon you by the American government? You wouldn't be that friendly either. but we don't know who we surround ourselves with. We don't know what their intentions are. We can guide those intentions with greed, capitalism, consumerism. Oh, and of course, criminalizing anything that we find appalling or just irksome. I find some things appalling. Yeah, that's true. But the idea of psychedelics being legalized beyond cannabis, that's just common sense. By the way, what are you doing for a living? So I am retired, I know, at such a young age, but I'm a musician. I make songs for art therapy. I put them online. People sometimes, I guess, purchase them, but I guess that's it. Oh, and I podcast, but I don't monetize it because it's not really that regular for me. Hold on. Oh, sometimes even the dogs need a little help. Wow, good, good, lovely. It is good. Americans are scared of unemployment. Sometimes it's because unemployed people turn to criminal activities, but it's also sometimes when you are unemployed, you start to question things. You start to question the hows and the whys and the who gets to decides. Being bumped up an income bracket by being disabled made me realize that some of the things that I used to want, I didn't want anymore. I didn't want television in my life anymore. I didn't want cinema. I still appreciate it. It's just my country is hurting right now. And it's hard to focus on escapism, at least through that means, when you have to focus on people are bringing guns into downtown areas in this town that I'm currently in because they want to protest ICE. So now I can't go there. Like, this is. It's sad that that story is about someone who lost their life. But it's even worse how America is using this to instigate a war with itself. Wow. It's us versus them. Those ICE agents, they're Americans. They have to live here. They have to be honest and realize that they're immigrants. All of you are. Everyone is an immigrant at some point. Even in indigenous people are immigrants. Why? Because you're supposed to move. You're supposed to move. You're supposed to find your mate. You're supposed to find your food source. You're supposed to find clean water. You're supposed to find an area that isn't on fire half the time. You're supposed to move. And the United Nations has done nothing to just explain that in a modern sense of, do you realize you're animals? Do you realize you're animals? You wear fancy things. You speak so flowery, but you're just animals. You hop from one area to another area. And maybe we should be doing that more often. Maybe we should just realize that parts of the globe aren't inhabitable anymore or could be used in a completely different way. Case in point, that California used to be farmland and then it was Hollywood land. And even Hollywood got to a point where they said, well, fuck it. We don't want to be here anymore. Do you want to be here anymore? And so they packed up and they moved to a different state. Hollywood isn't in Hollywood anymore. Hollywood is a tourist attraction. No, there is no Hollywood in California proper. I mean, there are some shows that are still, well, we're still there. We're still there. It's like, no, you're on a back lot. And then you do some B footage of people walking around with some funky music in the background and make us think that you still have the actors there. It's like, no, no, you do most of your filming in a different state because you moved away. They understand. You move away. You see there's a problem there, you move away. And sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes it takes money. Sometimes it takes extreme trauma. You okay? You feeling better? All right. Damn dogs afraid of fucking vacuum cleaners. Most adorable Aussie ever. Yep. All right. It's 2 in the afternoon. 5 more minutes until it's 3 in Ohio. Oh, hello there. Redhead animation. There you go. Hmm. You're doing well when you're having a chat on sociology and people are talking about, do you know what time it is? And this is one of the reasons why I'm a mutant ambassador and should go directly to the United Nations, because we have been using Greenwich Mean Time and Universal Standard Time to define our lives when we're animals, just like this one. Half of the mental issues that we have, half of the stress that we have, is because we don't understand move when it's light, sleep when it's dark. Our bodies, no matter how twilight we can get, and I live on the West Coast, these are some fucking twilight motherfuckers. You move around during the day and you sleep at night. Why? Because melatonin. Melatonin. And those circadian rhythms, those natural reactions to light. Productivity in America goes down. Why? Because we are fighting our own nature. The sun goes down, you're supposed to go to bed. Sun comes up, you're supposed to be up. But we define ourselves with, oh well, it's not morning until it is 8 or 9 o'clock. That's that's the only time that it could be morning. It's the only time we will accept that morning exists. It's like, who decides this? And what benefit do you gain by perpetuating that kind of system? And some people would say, oh well, it's how we keep things standard so that we can agree upon things of, hey, I'm going to meet you at this time, or your appointment is at this time. But what if your appointment is really, I am tired and I'm going to bed? My body has absorbed enough fucking sunlight that I am good to go. This is what the United Nations needs to talk about. The United Nations wants to talk about the war in Ukraine. That's important too. But if we're not going to talk about, hey, nap time is a very, very important thing, then I don't understand this organization. I don't understand how you allow this system to fuck up entire countries. Entire countries are falling apart because people do not get sleep. And when you do not get sleep, you see the cracks in reality. When you are stressed, you see the cracks in reality. You see the fucking robots, and you realize you're not one of them. I love horror, s- a horror show or a horror film. My absolute favorites are like The Thing or Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I love all versions of Invasions of the Body Snatchers. I like the original. I like the 90s one. And, I like the one with Nicole Kidman. But that one is clearly one of my faves too. The CGI in that is just so good. But even more so, it's, do you realize what goes on behind the scenes? That was one of the films that made me think of, you really have to think of all the people in your community. You can't leave anyone out. Like that movie, I saw that with some bloke, and it was like, "Do you want to go to the movies?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I do." So I went to the movies with him, and we saw Invasion, and it was so good. It was so good. It was so scary, and not only that, but it made me think of the impact that we have on each other's lives. How we're all connected, we're all dependent upon each other. The scene that fucking sends me, and I mean, I guess it's part of the plot, but it's not like you can always go back and watch it. It's a good film. Is the one where it's the big delegation of a bunch of foreigners, and they're all going to have a big talk about something important, but then you look behind them to all of the catering and the staff, and you realize these are people. They have feelings, they have health, they have a lot of things that are important, not just to them but to you, because if they get sick, you get sick. It's a domino effect. A lot of rich people always have this attitude of, the people beneath me don't matter. And sometimes you have to have that attitude because the people beneath you are never going to be your friends. They're going to either suck up to you or be jealous of you. And mostly they suck up to you because they're jealous of you. They're around you because they're jealous of you. It's the only reason. Because if they were your equal, they would be off doing their own thing. So I watched that film. I watched Invasion. Credits roll, movie ended. Happy ending, obviously, because, how can things how can things end on a bad note, even in a horror film? But I always say, like, what happens next? Like, where do you go from there? Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about the what happens next. You let the United Nations, you let your government do all the thinking for you because thinking is hard. It is hard, but it's important. It's important to say you went through something horrific, something global. I bring up that COVID as often as possible. Why? Because I want the job of Surgeon General. Apparently, I'm not going to be Surgeon General of the East Coast because the East Coast is going to be a dictatorship. But the idea of having a Surgeon General who is an Indigenous person, super important because we don't talk about the resiliency of our hosts. We don't talk about it. We just put it together as if you get sick, you get sick. We don't say, yeah, but we need to fight it off. You can't just give a weak virus to people and say, well, it's a vaccine. It's no, you have to fight. You have to fight it. You have to fight it off. You have to fight it when it's alive. And if your immune system isn't prepared for that, then we need to have a conversation as a culture, as a community, and say, wow, we need to talk about community health, talk about the idea that if you're not eating properly, that affects my health too. Watching Nicole Kidman swig sugary fucking drinks is just horrific on every level. Every level. But it made you think how many of us are doing that? We don't listen to our bodies, we don't acknowledge their needs, and we just fill it with empty calories, chemistry. Hold on. What, I'm English? I appreciate cinema. There's a time to watch it, and then there's a time to say I learned it. I'm I'm full. I'm full on the preachiness, preachiness of Hollywood because I learned lessons. Clearly, I did. Not all of them, and some of them obviously need refresher courses, which is why I love to bring up how much I dislike heated rivalry. I dislike it, and every single one of the gay baiting television shows or movies because all the fandom in the world is not enough to save one gay life. Just one. The outpouring of love for possibly straight actors pretending to be gay is nauseating. Kudos to the show, kudos to the actors. You did such a fantastic job. You made straight women tolerate gay people. You made straight men tolerate gay people on a screen where it's safe. Do your gay thing on the screen. That's ha ha. I have never been so offended in my life that my country says do your gay thing on a screen, but don't do it in public. Don't hold your partner's hand. Don't do PDAs. Don't be gay in public. You can do it on a screen. And they wonder why I constantly say I don't want to stay in that kind of America. I don't want to go to Pride anymore. I don't want to stay in San Francisco for Folsom Street in whatever month or day it is when I have a country that celebrates fake softcore gay porn while gay people are murdered, while gay people are assaulted and discriminated against. It's just offensive. So, like I said, I support those actors. Great job. Great job. But these people are just fucking monsters. Your fans. Because they love you so much, but they don't give a shit about real, real gay people who aren't famous, who aren't pretty, who aren't reciting lines. They're just living their lives. So yeah, I'm out of cinema. I'm out of that cycle of you just let a bunch of Hollywood people spoon feed you life lessons or history lessons of how things used to function. Reality is crashing down around us. That's what the West Coast is experiencing. These protests are dragging people away from television, away from being inside, suffocating. Because now they're outside and they're shouting, they're chanting, they're dancing. I actually saw an 80s fitness class protest. It looked like fun. I have PTSD, but I actually said, you know what? I would go to that. I would go to that. The music was bumping too. The people were enjoying themselves. It's a protest, but they said, well, Valentine's Day's around the corner. Get those reps in. Get those reps. If it were as simple as these are very intelligent, sensitive people reacting to the horrors in another state, I could almost understand it. But the West Coast is always more devious, always with another agenda. They are galvanizing the people and inadvertently disrupting the system. A system that out of how many years has just stolen from you, compromised your integrity and the sanctity of your own families. But what comes next? West Coast needs to figure this shit out because someone is, and I don't really like where that is going either. So if you live on the West Coast and you see this going on, you need to speak up. You need to start asking some questions because where does this go from here? Is the West Coast looking to break off from the rest of America? Because if you start kicking out federal agencies and asserting your state rights, well, you're kind of leaning in that direction anyway. And with everything that you experienced with COVID and, well, just the recession that you're having, it might be it might be the choice to make. One could imagine. How would California and the West Coast handle no longer having easy access to whatever the fuck they produce on the East Coast? I think they might be able to handle it. I think the West Coast is a little bit more grounded in their bodies. And the East Coast, they're a bit more grounded in their minds. What to do? What to do? As a veteran, as a disabled person, I shouldn't really get involved in this horrible, horrible mess. But I may. I may. So, what if the West Coast started raising the prices. It's just fair economics. We have goods and services here on the West Coast, or at least the rights to goods and services on the West Coast that are highly valuable, highly valuable. These protests, they're cute. They're cute. Boycotts, they're cute. Raising the price on almost every streaming service you can imagine. That would do it. If someone like Disney or AMC or Bravo said, we are so distraught of how the federal government is handling immigration with these ICE agencies, we are going to have to raise the price in those areas that have proven to be anti-immigrant. At first, people would be shocked, shocked. But then they'd also say, either we really need this or we don't. The East Coast has many things, they're not talented. So you know how to use money. You know how to really use money. If these East Coast states cannot behave properly and understand the sanctity of human life and due process of the law, raise a tax for actors. I don't know why SAG isn't involved in this and just say, look, we have to deal with the misery of this while learning lines? Fuck no. Raise our salaries. Raise the salaries of grips and production assistants with that tax. That would make sense, wouldn't it? I mean, after all, when you're not in front of the camera because you're Latino or Black or Asian or East Asian or South Asian or Arabic or whatever, but you're still in entertainment, but maybe just as a production assistant, you don't make a lot of money. If I wasn't making a lot of money, but I knew that by contributing what I do, that other people were making a lot of money, but I was being discriminated, or at least people that look like me were being discriminated, I would be pretty butthurt about that. I wouldn't protest. I would say this is opportunity for real change, systemic change, Western change. You don't make something like Game of Thrones with a bunch of plucky British actors. You do that with people from around the globe, immigrants. It's a tax, simple tax. One pen stroke, and I believe it was Senator Viner that I kept trying to reach out to because his whole thing of, well, we'll remove the mask. I'm like, dude, you're a grown adult. You're a grown adult. It's called a tax, a luxury tax on the East Coast. Because quite frankly, if you live on the West Coast and you had to deal with these people, you should be getting your entertainment for free. I am that person. I am that person because it's like if I have to deal with another person walking around with a cell phone that I can clearly tell is just recording in order to write a script, I'm just gonna say like, dude, you got to give me a taste of that. You have to because it's like you're just copying me. But whatever. It's called a tax. Tax. Tax the East Coast. It's the only thing the East Coast understands because the East Coast doesn't understand compassion. The East Coast doesn't understand integrity sometimes, but they do understand money. Think on that. I guess I have to do the whole formal thing of let me make a petition for you people. But that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to put that in the next link. So the next time I do a podcast, I'll also put it back into this one and the last one. So yeah, that's just what's going to have to happen because I cannot live in a town that's a fucking war zone when it's what the fuck are you fighting over? Whose dick is bigger, yours or the ICE agent? Go fuck yourselves, both of you. A man died. A nurse died over this. At what point are you going to say, come to the table and let's negotiate for something? Because it can't exactly sit well on your conscience, which I doubt anybody has at this point. But any of this is happening. If you go into law enforcement, if you go into these agencies, they're the people who are the bullies. Clearly, they are. But they're also the people who just say, I'm doing this, but I also want to go home to my family. Don't humanize a machine. They're not machines yet. You don't want to fuck with the East Coast because the East Coast will bring out the machines. You don't want to do that. These are reptiles, dinosaurs. Treat them as such. It's a simple tax. Raise the price. If you're on the East Coast and you don't want to pay that tax, you have to move over here. But that's the only thing that's going to change. It's the only thing that's going to make people see it as a real issue. Because right now, people don't think about the loss of human life as a blight against the soul, a diminishing of the spirit. People cared more about their dogs and goldfish than they did this man and that nurse's life. That's That's something that has to change. Oh, and also you need to have a larger conversation on national security, because you can't just let that slip away when you are dealing with several crises. Seas crisis. The world is in peril. Let's say that. My name is Ina Leona. I am a mutant ambassador. I am a human rights activist. I am an environmentalist. I'm a veteran with PTSD from military sexual trauma. I'm a werewolf. I hope to see you on the next podcast.